Picture a small town in Texas. A quiet woman, a scratch-off ticket, and then another, and another, and another. 4 times, 4 separate lottery wins, 4 massive payouts, all in the same quiet life, all adding up to more than $20 million. This is not a movie. This is not fiction. This is the true story of Joan R. Ginther, the woman who became one of the most statistically improbable lottery winners in American history. And before you think this is about strategy or systems or secrets, let me stop you right there. This is about pure, unbelievable, lightning strike 4 times luck that turned one woman into a national mystery and sparked a debate that still hasn't ended. Because when you win once, people congratulate you. When you win twice, people raise an eyebrow. When you win 4 times for over $20 million, people start asking questions that don't have easy answers. This is the story of the accidental fortune that defied every odd, broke every probability chart, and left the entire country wondering how. Joan R. Ginther lived a life most people would call ordinary, quiet, private, the kind of person who didn't seek attention, didn't crave spotlights, didn't chase fame. She moved through her days in Texas without fanfare. No flashy lifestyle, no public persona. Just a woman living her life on her own terms, keeping to herself in a way that felt deliberate and comfortable. Bishop, Texas became part of her regular world. A small town. The kind of place where people know the local stores, the familiar faces, the rhythm of daily routines. And in that ordinary world, Joan occasionally bought lottery tickets. Not obsessively. Not as some grand plan or calculated strategy. Just the way millions of Americans do, picking up a scratch-off here, a Lotto Texas ticket there. There was nothing in her behavior that suggested what was coming, nothing that hinted at the statistical storm about to unfold, nothing that prepared anyone, least of all Joan herself, for what would happen next. Because in 1993, her name appeared on a list that changes lives forever, a list of winners, a list that, for most people, represents a once-in-a-lifetime moment. For Joan, it was just the beginning. The first win came in 1993, Lotto Texas, the jackpot, her name, her ticket, her life suddenly holding a check for about $5.4 million. Imagine that moment, the disbelief, the confirmation, the reality sinking in that you've just won a multi-million-dollar lottery prize. For most people, that's the story, that's the miracle, that's the thing you tell your grandchildren about for the rest of your life. The odds of winning a major lottery jackpot hover somewhere in the tens of millions to one. Lightning doesn't strike twice, except when it does. 13 years passed, life moved on, and then in 2006 Joan walked into a store and bought a holiday millionaire scratch-off ticket. The kind of ticket millions of people buy every holiday season, dreaming of a miracle. She scratched it off. $2 million. Another major win. Another life-changing payout. Picture the lottery office. The same woman, the same confirmation process, the same officials looking at the same name and remembering, wait, didn't she already win? But that's not the twist. 2 years later in 2008, it happened again. A millions and millions scratch-off ticket, $3 million, third major win, same woman, same impossible luck stretching into territory that probability charts don't even want to touch. By now, people were noticing. Media outlets were starting to pick up the story. Because winning the lottery 3 times isn't just rare. It's astronomically, mind-bendingly, nearly impossibly rare. The odds of winning 1 major lottery prize are already staggering. The odds of winning 3 are so remote they require scientific notation to express properly. You're more likely to be struck by lightning multiple times than to win 3 major lottery prizes in a lifetime. But Joan wasn't done. In 2010, she bought another scratch-off ticket. An extreme payout ticket. The kind with a top prize that makes headlines. And she won again, $10 million, 4th major win, 4th massive payout, 4th time her name appeared on a list that most people never make once. Major coverage reported that 3 of her 4 winning tickets were purchased in Bishop, Texas. At least 2 came from the same store, often identified as Times Market. The same small-town location, the same routine life. The same quiet woman. And suddenly, Joan R. Ginther's total reported winnings sat at about $20.4 million, 4 wins, 17 years, 1 person. When the 2010 win hit the news, the story exploded. National media picked it up. Publications ran the numbers. Mathematicians started calculating probabilities that made your head spin. This wasn't just lucky anymore. This was a statistical event so rare it demanded attention. Reporters tried to reach Joan. Phone calls went unanswered. Requests for interviews were declined. The woman at the center of one of the most improbable winning streaks in lottery history valued her privacy and kept it. She didn't do press tour. She didn't write books. She didn't appear on morning shows to share her secret because there was no secret to share. Picture the lottery officials, the media outlets, the mathematicians all trying to make sense of the numbers. 4 major wins. Same person. Odds so remote they barely compute. Some estimates put the probability of winning 4 major lottery prizes in the range of 1 in 18 septillion. That's a number with so many zeros it stops meaning anything to the human brain. To put it another way, you're more likely to be dealt a royal flush in poker 4 times in a row than to win 4 major lottery prizes in a lifetime. You're more likely to flip a coin and have it land on heads 30 times consecutively. And that's when the speculation started. People began asking questions. Was there something about the tickets? Was there something about the locations? Was there something nobody was seeing? The debate spread online, in forums, in comment sections, in media analysis. Some suggested patterns. Others defended pure chance. Nobody had proof of anything beyond the verified fact that Joan R. Ginther had won 4 times and the odds were nearly impossible. But impossible and illegal are not the same thing, and rare and wrong are not synonyms. The Texas lottery confirmed her wins. The payouts were legitimate. The tickets were valid. Everything checked out. Joan remained silent. She didn't engage with the speculation, didn't fuel the theories, didn't give anyone ammunition or answers. She collected her winnings, maintained her privacy, and let the world talk. Winning the lottery once changes your life. Winning it 4 times changes your identity. Joan became known. Not famous in the celebrity sense, but recognized, discussed, analyzed. She became the woman who won 4 times, the statistical outlier, the case study. Privacy became a challenge. Attention became unavoidable. Her name circulated through news cycles, academic papers, internet forums, documentary pitches. She was now part of a narrative she hadn't asked for, a mystery she hadn't created, a debate she never joined. But here's the thing about massive windfalls, especially public ones, especially ones that spark national curiosity. They bring consequences you never planned for. Taxes took their share. Federal taxes, state taxes, the immediate haircut every lottery winner faces when they realize the advertised amount and the actual take-home amount live in different universes. That 20.4 million in total reported winnings became significantly less after obligations were met. Still a fortune, still life-changing, but not the fantasy number the headlines suggested. And then there's the human element. Family dynamics shift, requests come in, boundaries get tested. People appear who need something, want something, expect something. Joan's refusal to speak publicly became, in its own way, a protective strategy. She couldn't be quoted if she didn't talk. She couldn't be cornered if she didn't appear. She couldn't be misrepresented if she gave nothing to represent. Her story became a case study not just in luck, but in how to handle sudden wealth without becoming its victim. Because here's what the headlines miss. Winning is the easy part. Living with the win is where the real challenge begins. Joan's life after 2010 remained largely out of the spotlight. No reality shows, no tell-all books, no speaking tour about the power of positive thinking. Just a woman who experienced something so statistically rare it still doesn't quite feel real, and who chose to protect her peace instead of monetizing her story. The public debate continued without her. Forums still discuss her case. Probability experts still cite her story. Skeptics still question. Believers still defend. And through it all, Joan stayed Joan, private, guarded, living on her own terms. That, more than the money itself, might be the most impressive part of the entire story. Let's talk about what this story actually teaches, because it's not what most people think. This is not a lesson about how to win. It's not a blueprint for buying tickets or choosing locations or timing purchases. Joan's story is a lesson in what happens after the money arrives, and how you protect yourself when fortune, against all odds, finds you. First, privacy is not optional when sudden wealth enters your life. It's essential survival strategy. Joan understood something most lottery winners learn the hard way. The moment your name becomes public, your life stops being your own. Requests flood in. Attention intensifies. Boundaries dissolve unless you actively, firmly rebuild them. She kept quiet. She declined interviews. She didn't explain or defend or engage. That silence wasn't rude. It was self-preservation. When you come into sudden money, especially publicly, you become a target for requests, schemes, emotional manipulation, and well-meaning but draining expectations. Family, friends, strangers, organizations, all with compelling reasons why you should share your fortune. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot protect wealth you've surrendered to guilt or pressure. Joan's refusal to engage with the media circus protected her from becoming a spectacle. It protected her from being defined by her wins instead of by her choices. It protected her from the thousand small erosions that chip away at peace when everyone wants a piece of you. Next, understand that taxes and obligations are not suggestions. They're immediate, significant, and non-negotiable. Lottery winnings get taxed at the highest rates: federal, state, sometimes local. The advertised prize and the actual deposit are two very different numbers, and the gap can feel brutal if you're not prepared. Joan's 20.4 million in reported total winnings didn't mean 20.4 million in the bank. A substantial portion went to taxes immediately. Another portion likely went to financial planning, legal advice, security measures, all the infrastructure needed to manage sudden wealth responsibly. Windfall recipients often make the mistake of spending based on the headline number instead of the actual number. They commit to expenses, gifts, investments before the reality hits, and then find themselves scrambling when the tax bill arrives. Proper financial planning isn't sexy. It's not exciting. It doesn't make for dramatic social media posts, but it's the difference between wealth that lasts and wealth that evaporates. Joan's story also highlights the importance of security and discretion in every transaction. When you're known for having won significant money, even routine activities carry risk. She didn't broadcast her movements. She didn't flaunt her wins. She didn't turn her fortune into a public identity. That's not paranoia. That's practical safety. High-profile winners have been targeted, scammed, manipulated, and worse. The more visible you are, the more vulnerable you become. Finally, recognize that sudden wealth tests every relationship in your life. It reveals who people are and what they value. It shows you who loves you and who loves what you have. Joan's decision to maintain distance from public life likely extended to her personal life as well, not out of coldness but out of clarity. Money changes dynamics. It creates expectations. It complicates even the most genuine relationships. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. Saying no isn't selfish. It's self-respect. This is what Joan's story teaches if you look past the wins themselves: how to hold on to yourself when everything around you changes, how to protect your peace when the world wants access, how to make decisions based on your values instead of other people's expectations. Luck gave her the money. Wisdom let her keep it. But there's another layer to this story, one that goes beyond privacy and taxes and boundaries. It's about decision-making under pressure, about managing the psychological weight of sudden fortune, and about understanding that wealth without strategy is just a countdown to zero. Joan's 4 wins didn't just bring money. They brought attention, speculation, pressure, and a level of scrutiny most people never face. Every move analyzed, every decision questioned, every choice dissected by strangers who thought they knew better. And yet she didn't crack, she didn't spiral. She didn't make the dramatic mistakes that fill so many lottery winner cautionary tales. That suggests something crucial. She had a plan, or she built one fast. Sudden wealth without structure is dangerous. It evaporates. Studies show that a significant percentage of lottery winners end up financially worse off than before they won, not because the money was cursed, but because they lacked the tools, knowledge, and discipline to manage it. Joan's continued privacy suggests she avoided that trap. She didn't blow through her winnings on impulse purchases, bad investments, or enabling others. She didn't become a headline about bankruptcy or regret. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens through deliberate choices, likely with professional guidance. If you ever find yourself holding sudden money, whether from a windfall, inheritance, business sale, or any other source, your first move should not be spending. It should be pausing. Pause long enough to breathe. Pause long enough to think. Pause long enough to consult professionals who specialize in wealth management, tax strategy, and estate planning. Emotional decisions made in the immediate aftermath of a windfall are almost always mistakes. The rush of excitement, the pressure from others, the fear of missing out, all of it clouds judgment. Joan's lack of public missteps suggests she resisted that rush. She took her time. She made choices from a place of clarity instead of emotion. Another lesson embedded in her story: you don't owe anyone your narrative. People wanted her to explain, to share, to break down how it happened and what it felt like and what she planned to do next. The media wanted the story. The public wanted access. Analysts wanted data. She gave them nothing, and that was her right. When you come into money, people will expect you to perform gratitude, to justify your fortune, to prove you deserve it. You don't owe them that performance. Your wealth, however it arrived, is yours to manage as you see fit within legal and ethical boundaries. You don't need to explain your choices to satisfy someone else's curiosity or judgment. Joan also understood something subtle but critical. Visibility invites risk, and anonymity is a form of wealth protection. The more people know about your finances, the more vulnerable you become. To scams, to exploitation, to social engineering, to manipulation. Keeping your financial situation private isn't about shame or secrecy. It's about control. It's about making sure you're making decisions based on what's right for you, not based on external pressure or expectation. There's also the reality that sudden wealth can isolate you if you let it. It separates you from old friends who feel awkward or resentful. It attracts new people whose motives are unclear. It changes how people see you before you've even changed yourself. Joan's withdrawal from public life might have been lonely at times, but it was also protective. It allowed her to define her life on her terms instead of becoming a character in someone else's story. The final piece here is about gratitude without guilt. You can be grateful for a windfall and still protect it. You can appreciate your fortune and still say no. You can acknowledge your luck and still prioritize your own financial security. Gratitude doesn't mean giving everything away. It doesn't mean funding every request that comes your way. It means recognizing the opportunity you've been given and making the most of it. Joan's story, stripped of the speculation and sensationalism, is about someone who received an almost impossible gift 4 separate times and who chose to protect it instead of performing it. That's wisdom money can't buy. 4 wins, $20.4 million, one woman. Odds that still don't make sense 17 years later. Joan R. Ginther's story isn't just about luck. It's about what you do when luck finds you. It's about the choices you make when the impossible becomes your reality. She didn't ask for the attention. She didn't seek the spotlight. She didn't turn her fortune into a brand or a platform or a cautionary tale. She just lived, quietly, privately, on her own terms. And maybe that's the real miracle here. Not the 4 wins themselves, but the fact that she held on to herself through all of it. The fact that she protected her peace. The fact that she refused to let her windfall define her or destroy her. Because sudden money reveals who you are. It amplifies your strengths and exposes your weaknesses. It tests your character in ways nothing else can. Joan passed that test not by being perfect, but by being private, by building boundaries, by saying no when the world wanted yes, by living quietly while everyone else debated loudly. Her story will keep circulating. The speculation will continue. The debate over probability and possibility will never fully settle. But at the center of it all is a woman who won 4 times and never lost herself in the process. And that might be the most valuable lesson of all. If you found this story as unbelievable as I did, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next true windfall story. And share this video with a friend who loves tales that sound too wild to be real but absolutely are. Because these stories exist. These moments happen. And sometimes, against all odds, Lightning really does strike 4 times. Now I want to hear from you. If you suddenly won a multi-million-dollar prize tomorrow, would you tell anyone, or would you keep it completely secret?